very windy. It's really windy. There's a storm coming in. I already lost cap walking out in it. Could go again here, who knows. I was about to talk about my nightclubs that I used to go to when I was much younger, like 30 years ago. And so, let's do it. Nightclubs weren't really a thing in any meaningful way until I got myself to the city, Dublin city. Can you hear me with this wind? I don't know. You know what? I don't care either. When I got to Dublin, there were two nightclubs in the suburbs close to where I lived. And they were Club 92 and Hollywood Nights. Club 92, it wasn't my scene. It was a real cattle mart. And yeah, it wasn't my scene. There used to be a guy that went there that I knew. I haven't seen him in more than 30 years. And he was deaf, but he used to love the dance floor because he could feel the vibrations. So that I always thought that was such a cool thing. I went to Hollywood Nights. It was closer to where I live, and it was my preferred place. It showed up in a movie once with, if I said Rita, Educating Rita, that's the name of the movie. Yeah, it shows up in that. That's the dance floor. That was my dance floor too. From there, I moved out of the suburbs and into the city. And there was quite a choice of nightclubs in the city. There was one in particular that I used to love very much, above and beyond. It was called Club Reggae. Club Reggae. And that was in the Andrews Lane Theatre on a little back street in central Dublin. The theatre, I think, has since been long demolished. It's probably a car park or something now. But Club Reggae was just wonderful. I didn't know anybody that went there. I went there by myself. It was one of those clubs, just me. I went along and danced with strangers to reggae music and sweet smell in the air. And that was a great club. The Kitchen. Yeah, the Kitchen was a club I went to a good few times. It was a pretty good dance floor. It had cool people coming in and out of it. That's the one, of course, by Bono and The Edge of U2. But it was kind of a bit hoity-toity, if you know what I mean, in terms of coolness. Columbia Mills was the far end of the spectrum from the Kitchen in terms of coolness. This was a cool venue far down into what is now hyper-developed city living spaces. Back then was derelict, abandoned buildings to do with boats. Columbia Mills was one such building. Again, that's probably apartments by now, I'm sure. But it was very underground music coming out of Columbia Mills. It was not nothing you'd ever hear on the radio. Let's put it like that. Pod, place of dance. It's getting windy, isn't it? Yeah, you see the branches swirling over my head, don't you? Yeah, Pod, place of dance, was popular with a lot of people, but again, it was a little bit too cool for me. It was a little bit too cool for me again. Now, Spirit, which was down Abbey Street, was cool. It was very industrial, in a modern way, and I danced a lot in Spirit Saturday nights, I'm going to guess. Maybe it was Fridays, I don't know. That was a really great club. My favorite one, though, of all of them, would have to, well, let me tell you first about clubs before clubs, because clubs were only a pretty relatively recent thing in the 90s in Dublin, outside of one famous street, Leeson Street. And Leeson Street had a whole row of nightclubs, wine bars, I guess you call it more than a nightclub. And this was the only place you could go late at night when there were no nightclubs, was you could go to Leeson Street, and if you did, you'd have to buy a bottle of crap wine for $100 or something like that, and then you can stay in the club. It was one of those kind of things. So that was pretty crap. I was there a few times, brought a few Americans there, brought a few tourists there, because there was nowhere else to go. It was that far back. But my favorite nightclub, without doubt, was the Temple of Sound. And the Temple of Sound was, again, along the river, like Columbia Mills, but the Temple of Sound was on the opposite side of the river and way back up past the centre of the city at O'Connell Bridge. And the Temple of Sound, I think it was a part of a hotel. And not that I ever knew anything about the hotel. This was just the nightclub that I would go to, which maybe happened to be a part of a hotel in the basement or something. But the Temple of Sound was hard, banging, excellent DJs. It was the nightclub where there would be platters of fresh fruit, pineapples, mangoes, apples, pears, berries, all sorts of that stuff being paraded around by hosts and hostesses on offer to all of the raving dancers who were sweating a lot on the dance floor. I was there one time with a couple of my friends, and there was one guy, he's a real tough guy, at least that's what he thinks, you know, puts across that impression, but he never danced. He was a bit shy, like I think a lot of people are a bit shy to dance on the dance floor. But we were there one night, and he said, "Okay guys, I want to go on the dance floor." And whoever was sitting beside him probably said, "Okay, let's go, let's do it." And he said, "No, I want to go with Mike." He wanted to go with me on the dance floor. I was a hot dancer when I was dancing in the nightclubs in the 90s. I was smoking, I was burning. Yeah, confidence, isn't it? It's about confidence, your moves. You gotta move as well, of course, but you need confidence. If you got confidence, you got a lot. You got a lot. So don't stop dancing. There are no nightclubs particularly anymore. That wave has sadly passed us, and now it's kind of late bars and that kind of thing, isn't it? Is it the same? Not really. You got a DJ? Maybe. You got a DJ playing? Well, then you're getting kind of close to the same thing. I'm waiting for... What am I waiting for? I'm waiting for the next big thing that's going to make people dance again. I think we've forgotten how to dance. A lot of people have forgotten how to sing. It's not a good thing. Don't stop dancing.